Tonight on DM Storytime, we delve into the horror and nightmares of the winter summons. The wind howled across the barren Norwegian landscape, carrying with it a kind of cold that seeped into your very bones. The snow stretched in all directions, glinting under the pale light of the moon. You stood in the centre of it, your breath clouding the air as you moved in. Slow, deliberate dance. Your boots crunching against the frozen ground. Your arms swayed. Your voice trembled, chanting words you had never read, but never understood. But you don't know why you were doing this. The book, a tattered leather-bound relic, has called to you from the back of an antique shop. Its pages filled with strange symbols, their meanings undecipherable as the language you now speak aloud. It wasn't a conscious decision to act on the rituals within, but something about tonight, the way the winds whispered and the moon hung low in the sky, made it impossible to resist. But as you twirled, as the syllables poured from your lips, a gnawing unease took root in your chest. The air seemed heavier with every word, the shadows of the trees stretching unnaturally toward you, as if drawn by your voice. A chill, deeper than the cold of the winter, gripped you, whispering an undeniable truth. You shouldn't be doing this. Your movements faltered, the chant stuck in your throat, turning into a rasp. The moment the last sound left your lips, the world seemed to hold its breath. The wind stopped. The trees stood still. Even the ever-present creak of the ice beneath your feet fell silent. And then you felt it. It wasn't a sound, not a sight, but a feeling, an oppressive weight that crushed the very air around you. Malice, ancient and potent. It saturated the atmosphere, so thick you could taste it, metallic and bitter. Your stomach churned as the realization washed over you. You had called something. Panic seized you, and you turned on your heel, running towards the tiny cabin at the edge of the forest, your only sanctuary. The snow dragged at your feet, your breaths coming in ragged gasps as the feeling of something watching you grew stronger with every step. You dared look back, afraid of what your eyes might find. Bursting through the door, you slammed it shut, and threw the latch, your trembling hands barely managing the task. The cabin was small, a single room with a wooden stove, and that fragile glass door now separating you from the night. You pressed your back against the far wall, heart hammering in your chest, your breath visible in the frigid air. And then you saw it. It came galloping out of the woods, each step sending tremors through the earth, a monstrous thing, a twisted parody of a bison, its body bloated and wrong, its skeletal legs thin and sharp as blades, looked as though they could snap you under the weight of its hulking frame. But they carried it forward with horrifying speed. Blood dripped from its maw, its jaw hanging askew, shredded and maimed, exposing jagged teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. Steam rose from its body, mingling with the blood that oozed from the gashes in its flesh. The thing stopped where you had been standing but moments ago, lowering its massive, rotting head to sniff the ground. You could hear its laboured breaths, each one wet and ragged, as if it were choking on the very air. And then its head snapped up, its eyes sunken and glowing faintly with unworldly light, locked onto you through the thin glass door. The hatred in that glaze was palpable, a searing force that made your knees weak. You were not simply an intruder to this thing, you were prey. A trespasser who had dared summon it, and now it would make you pay its price. You pressed yourself against the wall, your mind screaming to run, but there was nowhere to go. The door, thin and fragile, was all that stood between you and the abomination. Its skeletal legs moved unnervingly as it began to circle the cabin, its gaze never leaving yours. You could hear the crunch of its hooves in the deep snow, each step deliberate, filled with predatory instinct. Stopped again, directly in front of the door. The cabin seemed to shrink under its immense presence. Its head tilted, as if studying you, deciding how best to reach you. Then it moved closer, its bloodied maw pressing against the glass, leaving streaks of crimson on the fragile surface. The glass groaned under the pressure, and you held your breath, paralyzed by fear. The creature let out a low, guttural sound, a mix between a growl and a wet, choking gurgle. The glass cracked, a thin spiderweb spreading from where its bloody jaw was pressed. Clamped a hand over your mouth to stifle a scream. The pressure in the air grew unbearable, the malice so thick it felt though your lungs might collapse. The creature reared back, its bellow shaking the cabin, before slamming its massive body against the door. The glass shattered. The cold rushed in, and with it the stench of rotting death and blood. You scrambled backwards, your mind blank with terror, as the abomination stepped inside, its legs bending into grotesque angles to fit through the doorway. It loomed over you, its glowing eyes with the unholy fury. The last thing you saw before the darkness took you was its maw opening wide, revealing an endless void with teeth, too many teeth, and then there was nothing.